Okay, so start here. The first principle of transformative eating to really change your eating and change your results for your health and your weight, it's eat more highly nutritious foods. So let's dig into this. What does this mean? As you master this and you really discover the highly nutritious foods you thoroughly enjoy, and you get so that you're eating them in abundance, in the recommended quantities, it's going to be absolutely key to changing your health and changing your weight. And here's how I've come to understand it. When you give your body the nutrition it needs, like there's no fooling your body needs the nutrition it needs. And when you give it the nutrition it needs, it stops sending you chemical messages saying, I'm hungry, eat more, give me more food. If you keep eating the non-nutritious things, I know one of my favorites was popcorn. I would do that for dinner when I was dieting. I wouldn't eat anything nutritious for dinner, I would just have popcorn. Now, I could eat popcorn like in an amount that probably would be enough for about 10 people. And it's an interesting thing about the non-nutritious foods is you can just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and you never get that signal from your brain. That's probably enough. You should probably stop. So there's a lot of chemical messages your body is sending you, telling you to eat more when you're not eating enough of the nutritious foods. On the other hand, when you do start eating enough, a lot of the highly nutritious foods, your body starts really changing how it's responding. Those hormonal systems start to recuperate, and your body starts to cooperate with your weight loss efforts. It doesn't fight you anymore. So you start to feel full and satisfied, and that supports you not eating between meals. Your energy and your mental clarity improve, and that helps you better stick with your intentions and achieve your goals. And you start feeling better. You know, I'm going to give you very clear and specific guidelines about what I mean by abundant nutritious foods starting today. I'm going to give very clear and specific guidelines about what I mean by abundant nutritious foods starting today. And you may discover that I recommend steering away from certain foods and drinks that you've considered healthy and nutritious or great diet foods like me and the popcorn. For now, don't worry if it doesn't all make sense to you or if you don't buy into my recommendations right off the bat. For now, give me a little benefit of the doubt that there's some things that I know and understand that if you give them a chance, you might learn what works better for you too. Keep in mind that this way of eating has been effective for thousands of people in totally transforming their health and their weight. And the way that you've been eating hasn't been working for your desired results. So focus on really giving this a chance to work. For now, I recommend you stand in your beginner's mind and get curious and inquisitive. What are the highly nutritious foods I really enjoy that I can start to eat in a lot more abundance? What does abundance mean? How can I enjoy eating a lot more of those foods? So a lot of us find making this a bit of a project, finding, okay, I know I like Brussels sprouts. How do I really like them prepared? How do I eat enough of them that it starts to make a really big difference and really enjoy them and look forward to them? All right. Now let's get a little specific so you can start getting into action, changing your eating. So fruits and vegetables are number one. You're going to hear a lot from me about eating more fruits and vegetables. And so I want to start by dispelling any concern you might have that I'm going to tell you need to be vegetarian or vegan. And that's not what I'm saying. Many people have achieved great results for their health and their weight, whether they eat just plant foods or they eat a lot of plant foods along with some meat and fish and dairy and eggs, right? And there's a lot of junk food vegans out there. And I've had several clients who were vegan who came to me saying, okay, I feel like I'm eating really healthy. I'm really committed to veganism, but I'm not feeling very well as far as my health. And my weight is just not where I want it to be. So they really had to learn the other three principles of the program. So I'm not saying you need to become vegetarian or vegan. I am saying that almost everyone needs to eat a lot more of these plant foods to get great results. I know for me, this was the first step that really put me on the path. Just really ramping up my fruits and vegetables was a change that turned everything in the right direction. This is where I finally was on the path. my weight, my health, and how I felt started to change when I really focused on changing this. And it's been key for all my friends and clients as well. So let me get even more specific. I'm going to recommend that you eat fruit every day. Have a serving of fruit for breakfast and a serving of fruit for lunch. And I want to be clear that I mean fresh or frozen whole fruit, not juiced, not dried. There's a lot of people that will recommend juices or smoothies, etc. But what I discovered in looking at all the research, which really went along with my experience, and what I've also observed with now hundreds of people learning to eat this way, is that juices tend to hit our brains with just far too much sugar. And too much sugar in our brain is devastating to our health and weight loss. And we're going to talk more about that in an upcoming class. So you want to eat whole or frozen or fresh fruits, one at breakfast and one at lunch. So what might that be? An apple, a pear, a peach, an orange, a banana. There's a lot, right? I have, my typical ones. I usually do berries for breakfast. If you want to be really clear about your quantities, it's more than you think. And that's going to be true with most of these plant foods. Definitely the fruits and vegetables. So I weigh out 6 ounces of berries because I wouldn't eat enough berries otherwise. So for now, can you identify a fruit you can enjoy with breakfast every day? For me, it's berries. Can you identify a fruit that you can enjoy with lunch every day? For me, it's usually an apple or a pear, sometimes jicama. You might want to do melons. There's a lot of choices, right? And eating the fruit with breakfast and lunch is the first step to eating enough of the highly nutritious foods, and it's going to help you really enjoy your meals too. Make them really tasty and something you look forward to. One of the other big changes that will make a big difference for you is incorporating a lot more vegetables. The way I describe it is we change the center. So for most of us, many of us anyway, we've grown up in a culture in which we center our meal around the meat or fish. I grew up in Michigan, rural Michigan, so it was meat and potatoes all the way. And generally, so that would be the center of the plate. And this is what we'll find mostly in restaurants too, is they're probably offering us twice as much protein as is beneficial for us, and really tiny amount of vegetables. So changing the center is more like that right-hand picture. So you're building the meal around a plate full of vegetables instead of a plate full of meat. So you still do want to have some protein with every meal. That can be meat or fish or eggs, but this is generally one category of food most of us are overeating. So rather than an 8 or 12 ounce steak, you're going for 4 ounces cooked. So that's the deck of cards size. Usually about half what they're offering you in a restaurant, sometimes a third. If you're eating beans, a good serving size is a little bit more hefty. And we're going to go more into those details in the lesson on quantities. So rather than 1 or 2 ounces of vegetables, like if I look at that plate on the left, we're lucky, I think we're lucky if we have 1 ounce there. We're aiming for more like 10 ounces of vegetables. So that's a plate full of vegetables. So 10 ounces of vegetables at lunch with a serving of fruit and a protein. Also, we can have a fat. And then similar for dinner, except that we don't have the fruit for dinner. And when you do this, you're going to really get a pretty quick release of energy and vitality, and your body's going to start cooperating with your weight loss. So fill your plate with vegetables. So I do understand this is generally a lot more than most people are eating, and it generally takes, it's a bit of a project. It takes some time and effort to find the vegetables you really enjoy and the ways you really enjoy them prepared. So start working on finding your favorites, your go-tos. That one on the left there, I don't think that's my plate, but that's it's one of the plates of vegetables that I love, which is roasted root vegetables, I think is what I'm seeing. Brussels sprouts and maybe parsnips, the purple onions or cabbage in there. And it might be yams or sweet potatoes, or could be carrots, I'm not sure. And then, you get a little bit of fat in there if you're cooking it in oil. I love to put salt and pepper. Also, curry powder can be really tasty. Or if you like taco flavoring, you can use like chili powder, but putting some really good spices on there. So this is the first recommendation, and it's the linchpin for everything else. So I encourage you to be patient with yourself, but make it a priority to get this step humming. There's a handout vegetables list that goes with this module. So I really encourage you to get that out and identify all the vegetables that you like, that you can start that can give you ideas for what to start preparing every day for lunch and every day for dinner. And we'll get into more detail in other lessons about how much exactly, but another guideline that I want to put out today is that I recommend that you start eating a serving of whole grain at breakfast. And this is really interesting. I told you the first thing I really changed was eating a lot more fruits and vegetables. That really started changing my results. The last thing I changed was this. I had really moved completely away from grains for several years, and I felt like that helped me with weight loss and with feeling better. And then as I studied more and more, I started viewing it differently. So I got a more nuanced understanding. I concluded that it's not that grains have been causing me bad outcomes. It's that flour has been causing bad outcomes. And it's the fact that flour involves taking a natural whole plant food that has nutritional benefit and then pulverizing it. And that leads to exponentially increased surface area, and that leads to a big release of sugar in our brain. That big release of sugar in our brain is a big piece of what we want to avoid. It's the reason why cutting grains tends to produce some benefits, because we cut out all the flour. But eating whole grain contributes to eating enough highly nutritious foods. It's nutritious and it's satisfying. And I'm not talking about eating bread of any kind or breakfast cereals either. Almost I don't know how many breakfast cereals there are in the store. In Mexico, there's got to be at least 50 different brands. In the United States, I think it's more like 100. It's a lot, the ready-made cereals in the boxes. Almost none of those are going to be right for us because they're made with flour, sugar, or both. What we want to eat is whole grains, and that can be oatmeal, that could be oat bran, rice, cream of rice, cream of wheat, a bunch of other things you may not be familiar with, like grits or quinoa, buckwheat, amaranth, millet, etc. We have found that there's a handful of ready-made cereals that fit the bill, like the original and almond Ezekiel cereals, not the one with the raisins. There's another one there that doesn't fit the bill, but the two on the right do. But almost all the cereals in the cereal aisle are made with flour, sugar, or both, and are going to spike the sugar in your brain. And when you want to feel better and reduce inflammation and improve your insulin functioning and release excess weight, that sugar spike is something we absolutely want to avoid. Now, what can you expect when you start eating a lot more highly nutritious foods? Our bodies are complex. They're adaptive systems, and we're not going to force them into releasing excess weight or healing themselves. But as they start to experience more and more nutritious foods, some of the things you can expect are to feel full and satisfied, like the amount of food is enough. That's something we hear a lot. That makes a really big difference when you're trying to release excess weight and change your eating. People experience increased energy and mental clarity really quickly. I can see it in their faces. People experience improved mood and improved sleep really quickly. They find it easier to avoid the unhealthy food-like substances and to eliminate cravings. And they get support for released weight as well. Like I said, your body will start to cooperate with your weight loss. It's a completely different experience from your body fighting you. No, eat more, slowing down your metabolism, etc. When you start giving it enough nutritious foods, it starts cooperating with you, and that changes everything. And what about the health benefits of eating more of these nutritious plant foods? There's a lot of research. I can't go into it in a lot of detail in the scope of this program, but I can point you to books and articles if you're interested in more. But there's research showing that eating a lot more nutritious plant foods protects us against heart disease. We don't even see heart disease in cultures that eat traditional diets until they adopt our diet. Then all of a sudden the doctors have to figure out how to treat Western style heart disease. It protects us against diabetes and improves our blood sugar. I've known so many people personally this has been the case for. We get better elimination, and that means we're getting the toxins out of our body in a much more efficient way. And maybe you don't start a diet with that as a priority, but when you're eliminating a lot more often, it seems like you're moving toxins through and out more efficiently, and that's got to be better for our system. It protects against cancer, another disease that's not seen with traditional diets and suddenly shows up and just takes off in populations where they embrace the Western diet. There's even interesting studies that show that some plant foods kill cancer cells in vitro, and others showing that they can massively improve the prognosis, like for esophageal cancer. We get healthier lung functions. We also protect our brain function. So it reduces cognitive decline by years, reduces the risk of stroke when we eat more of these foods, also strengthens our immune system and reduces infection. I talked about how that was the case for me. And it benefits weight loss too. So you get to a healthier weight. Your body, when you're eating in a way that works with your body, rather than against it, your body starts cooperating with your weight loss and responds in such a healthy, happy way. So I'm not suggesting you become vegetarian or vegan, but I do suggest that you start eating a lot more fruits and vegetables and other whole plant foods to improve your health and release excess weight. So here's the summary, the review of my first recommendations for changing your eating, and see which of these you can really start to implement this week. Eat a serving of fruit for breakfast every day. Eat a serving of whole grain for breakfast every day. All right, for lunch, make sure you're eating a serving of fruit. Discover the vegetables you really enjoy and the ways you really enjoy preparing them, and change the center for lunch and dinner. Start to eat mostly vegetables and then much less protein. Center lunch and dinner on the vegetables and make protein the side. And start noticing how you feel better. When you eat enough of these foods and you cut out food-like substances that are harming you, your body will start to feel so much better, and it will cooperate with your weight loss. And this changes the whole game.